silence and then we'll go again. Happy Friday, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Fried Okra, the public education podcast for Oklahomans. I'm Carrie Coppernall Jacobs with the Oklahoma Education Association.
And I'm Alicia Priest, president of the OEA. Fried Okra is a weekly podcast where we get together to talk about public education issues in Oklahoma. We hope you'll join us every Friday.
Well, this morning we've got a very special guest with us, Becky Pringle, president of the National Education Association. Becky, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I am wonderful, Carrie. Hi, Alicia. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great.
Excellent, excellent. The sun is shining here in Virginia, and it's a reminder that we have a lot to be grateful for, even in the throes of a pandemic that has brought quite a few crises to our front doors, right?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you that's a good perspective to start the day. So tell us, for folks who might not be familiar with you, give us a little history about where you started and how you ended up president of the largest professional association in the country.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a long story. I don't know how much time you ladies have. I've been at it for a while. I've always been an activist since I was a teenager in high school and continued that through college. And then when I became a teacher over 30 none of your business years ago, I realized that I had the opportunity to be part of something that was bigger than myself. And so at the time I worked in Susquehanna Township, and that is a suburb of Harrisburg. And I realized I wasn't by myself. I was part of the Susquehanna Township Education Association. And then I realized I was part of the Pennsylvania State Education Association. And then I went to my first representative assembly. Alicia, you remember that first time?
I remember it. I was hooked.
Oh my goodness, 10,000 teachers and support professionals gathered together. I felt so powerful. I felt so excited. I could hardly stop smiling. And so when I realized I was part of the largest labor union in this country, it was just the most amazing thing. And I felt like I could do anything for my kids and for my colleagues. And I still believe that to today. Even as I said it to you, Alicia, I got goosebumps, right? It was the most amazing thing. And I realized that I needed to be active. I started that activism because I just really was standing up for my 5-year-old son who was just starting kindergarten. Now, let me just give you a little flavor of that. So my grandson, his child is eight now. So that was a long time ago. My son was 5 years old, and the superintendent at the time, you will not believe this, Carrie, wanted to put 33 students in my son's kindergarten class. 33 in kindergarten.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
The Channel 6 News came to the high school auditorium and they were filming and everything. And I stood up in front of the cameras and I said, that is not okay. That is not in keeping with the excellence that I know this school district to believe in. And that is not, no, we're not having that. And then the local president at the time came to me and said, wow, Becky, you need to be involved in the union because you have a really big mouth.
No, you're just good at giving people the business.
There you go. So, and that began my road toward leadership in the association.
Why, when you think about that beginning and think about now, what are your goals as president? And also, how does that harken back to what you felt passionate about in that gym so many years ago?
So for me, it was always about excellence for our schools, for our educators, for our students. And as an educator, I felt that it was my professional responsibility, honestly, to speak up. It was speaking up for my son, but it wasn't just about my son.
Yeah.
It was about excellence for all of our students. And it absolutely, that's a great question, Carrie, because it really guided everything I did from then on. I really believe that as educators, we should be leading. And so when I talked with Alicia and other state leaders about the vision that I was setting for the association, it was steeped in our mission, which is so powerful for me. And I told them that for me, That vision is about uniting not just our members, but the entire nation to fulfill the promise of public education. And that compelling vision absolutely required that this nation understand that it can't only be about educators. It has to be about all of us. It has to be about shared responsibility to ensure that all students and all educators and all schools are excelling, and everyone knows it.
You're just giving me goosebumps all over again, Becky, because it is all about our kids and making sure that they have the promise of the future that we have had, but even more. And I think that ties into some of the goals that you've set forth for your presidency. So will you talk a little bit about your goals and how you see NEA moving things forward for public education?
I'd be happy to, Alicia. So for me, for this to actually be a reality, it has to guide the policies and practices and systems at every level of government.
Yes.
We know that every level of government, from the local to the state to the national, has a responsibility to ensure that they are providing the resources and support for the every to happen. So it's every level of government. But you know what, Alicia, it's not just that. We as association leaders, we have a responsibility too. We have to make sure that our association is really leaning into that important work that we should be leading. And that everything we do reflects our commitment to racial and social and education justice. So let me describe a little bit about what that means for me. It means that every student, everyone, is supported in and prepared for the next journey. We often talk in education about, college and career ready, and that's important. But every step of a student's academic and social emotional development is important. I'm a middle school science teacher. I taught those babies with attitude, Alicia. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we all know about middle level learners. We know that's a special time in their lives. So we have to make sure that we are preparing those fifth graders or sixth graders to take that next step as they're going through all of those transitions that they're going through emotionally, their bodies, everything. We know what's going on. They have to be ready for that. So it's not just about the end. It is about every step along their journey. And it's not just about preparing them for college and career if they decide to go to college. It is about preparing them to be leaders every step of the way. It is about preparing them to take their civic responsibility. And then when I describe what that looks like, because oftentimes we struggle with what's the purpose of public education. So when I describe what that looks like, this is what really touches my heart, Carrie. It is that they are prepared to fulfill their full potential as empowered individuals. So they know what their power is, right?
Yes.
And they are constructive members of their communities. It is so important that we understand our role and responsibility in communities all across this nation. And then that they will be productive participants in the economy. So we're not only talking about them being able to get a job, but we are talking about making sure they have a wage that allows them to take care of their families and support the community, the economy, the whole economy. And then finally, that they are engaged citizens of not only the United States, but we are becoming so much more global, right? So they are citizens of the United States and the world because it's all interconnected. So that's what I see. When I see when somebody asks me what does success look like, that's what it looks like to me.
Man, thank you. Yes. Could I just copy paste that as my answer? Whenever people say like, what do you want for public education? That's what I want. It's so hard it's sometimes hard to articulate because you want the world for your kids. You want the world for everybody's kids. And I think that acknowledging those different points is so important.
And true educators want that for everyone's kids. My kids, your kids, the neighbor down the street, the kid in the school that is, in the next town over and in the next state over. I mean,
that's absolutely right.
Who we are.
Right. It is who we are. And we saw that right at the beginning of the pandemic. We saw educators, all of them, our teachers, our bus drivers, doing what they do,
Yeah.
standing in the gaps for
Yeah.
everyone's children, right? I am so proud of I'm so proud of them. I'm so proud of our members.
It's whenever the pandemic started, and just to watch teachers and support professionals respond just as they always do, you know, I mean, just as in an unexpected time, doing what we, in a way, it's not surprising. I mean, it's surprising, but it's not, because of course they're driving bus routes to deliver meals. Of course they're, you know, making copies and taking them to kids' houses. Like, I mean,
and doing creative things, right? Having
yes.
car parades or setting up a chair outside of their window. I mean,
yes,
they're so innovative. They won't let anything stop them from doing what's best, from doing the jobs they love.
Yes, we talk about passion and perseverance, and that is what we see all the time.
Yes, yes.
Perseverance is such a better word than grit.
Yeah, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I like that. That's absolutely true. I agree with that. I agree with that, Alicia. I like that. Yeah, and it's why I talk when I say all educators, it's why when I describe that part of the vision, I talk about educators being supported and continuously prepared for professional excellence. So that means I see our role, and not everyone does, but I absolutely see our role as an association, helping them with that. So throughout their entire career continuum, that we are preparing them for that collective autonomy and that collaborative practice for advancing and leading their professions, both teaching and ESP. You know, I'm so proud of the work we did at NEA to articulate standards of practice for our ESP. All nine career families, we did that. So it's all of us. And all of that, this is my BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal. I love this idea that every educator has the professional authority, right? The rights and professional compensation. Certainly OEA members, they were hitting the streets. There's no excuse why any of our educators are their children are on free and reduced lunch. And too many of our ESP members find themselves in that place. I read about, Alicia, educators in Oklahoma sleeping in their cars. That's not okay. It's not okay.
Teachers should never have to choose between their profession and being able to just live.
Right.
Not even that anybody needs like a private yacht, just trying to have a home and being able to afford their career. Like, you should be able to afford your career.
Exactly. Especially
our average
career that we all know is at the foundation of this democracy. You know, it's Good. I'm sorry, Lise.
No, our average support professional, para in the classroom makes $16,000 a year. I mean, that is not a living wage.
It is not.
It's not.
And we can't have school without our support professionals.
Right.
I mean, they are an integral part of us being able to educate the whole child.
That's exactly right. And I love the way you just said that, Alicia, because not everyone understands that. And for us to be able to talk about it in a way that people finally value the work that our ESPs do to ensure that our students are learning and they are cared for. You know, we don't talk enough about that social emotional learning. And certainly in this moment where so many of our students are suffering from trauma, our ESPs are those folks, and as you very well know, I'm sure this is true in Oklahoma, this is true all over the country, that our ESPs live in the communities that our students come from, and they are that connector with our parents and other leaders within that community to try to lift up our schools and get our kids what they need. So they're invaluable.
Well, I will just say one quick thing about that exact issue. So I have a kindergartner and a fifth grader, and when we go pick up meals at our neighborhood school, our cafeteria workers are a critical connection for my kindergartner. She wants to see their faces. She recognizes them every day. And for her, it is such a tangible tie to her school. And it is a critical part of our day. And I tell those ladies, thank you every day. I'm so grateful for them. But they don't even know the kind of impact they're having on the 5-year-old in my car. I mean, it's just critical every day. She's like, she calls them her ladies. She's like, we need to go see my ladies. And they know what kind of milk she likes. I mean, and they're doing that for my kids. They're doing that for all the kids in our neighborhood. And it's just, you can't say enough. I can't express enough gratitude for what that, just this direct connection that they have with the kids. And, you know, they don't get to see their teacher like that. They don't get to see their principal or other special teachers, but those support professionals every day, seeing their faces is critical for our family. It is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I talk about all schools, and that you hit on that and describing that, Carrie, then when I talk about all schools, you know, it's not, you know, that I imagine, this is what my vision is, that, you know, schools are that hub of the community. Every school is supported by parents and families and the community and the local, state, and national governments, and that they reflect the aspirations of their community, every school, and contribute to each other's success.
Yes.
And so when I get the chance to travel and go to visit some of the community schools that have been built on the pillars of community schools that NEA talks about in its policy statement on community schools, it is just an amazing thing. And you know what I found out? I wanted to find, I had a theory that our community schools were faring much better in the pandemic than others. And so I asked to connect with our leaders in those community schools. And in fact, they were, because they already had those systems set up. They already had the partnership with the hospitals. So
Yep.
They were able to get the rapid testing for the kids and for the families. They already had that connection to the Boys and Girls Club. So they were setting up tutoring for those kids and hotspots and things like that. So they were working in collaboration. That's what I imagine for every school, is
Yeah.
that they are surrounded by that support, by the community, and they're proud of their community. They know how to mine the assets of the community. Too often, those communities where we have large numbers of students and families living in poverty, or our Black, Brown, or Indigenous communities, too often they're talked about as from a deficit model, instead of seeing the assets in those communities.
Yes.
And working together to lift that community up and that school up, and ultimately to make sure that our students have what they need when they need it.
Yes. Well, yes. To switch gears a little bit, talk about the connection with OEA and NEA. There are ways that we are alike, there are ways that we're different, but it's always a partnership. What is your vision for NEA and how it works with OEA?
So I really appreciate that question. I started talking with our state affiliates, Alicia, and other state presidents and officers, our NEA board of directors, about what I envision. And for all that I just said to happen, we actually have to leverage our collective power, strength, resources. And so I'm talking about true, real culture of collaboration. So that means that we have structures and processes and practices that support and promote that culture of continuous collaboration within and throughout all of our systems, both internally in the association and externally with our partners. So I've been sharing with leaders a concept that I, as the president, am working to actually be a part of us. And what I call it is dynamic alignment.
Okay.
And the reason I use those words is because dynamic for me means very exciting and powerful and bold.
Mm-hmm.
And it also means that it has the flexibility to change and be relevant all constantly. And that alignment means that we all have that same North Star. So what I just talked about that vision, which is rooted in our mission of the NEA, which was adopted by our representative assembly, our highest governing body. So we're all aligned behind that mission, but we're doing it in a way that we are leveraging our collective assets. And so you are absolutely correct, Carrie. We are different. We are very different. But people say this, but I actually mean it, and I've been envisioning ways that we can really lift it up. So when I say that our diversity is our strength, I mean that.
Mm-hmm.
So what OEA brings to the table, to the NEA table, is something valuable that we need to understand and know so that we can leverage that asset. And so the communication between me and Alicia, between our executive director, Kim Anderson, and yours, between our staffs, is absolutely essential so that we can leverage that collective expertise and resources and energy and power to actually make this vision become a reality.
You know, when you talk about that, it is such a, on the flip side, you think about Oklahoma being so different from Massachusetts or California or Florida or Michigan, but it's not a deficit if you view it as it's not a challenge if you view it as collectively, which is what unions are about. Collectively, our strength is together. So I love the way
we all believe in public education and the promise that that gives our future. And so when we work at the things that we agree on and make those deposits in that, we can accomplish anything.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I would say, and specific to Oklahoma, so a good example of that is your Red for Ed movement. We all benefited from.
I do like your cardigan. I do. Hearing that.
Do you like that? You know, we all benefited from what you did. That activism and that energy we learned from you. You allowed us to do that. And you lifted up public education. You really did. I mean, the way you talked about it as that common good, as that foundation of the democracy, and you didn't do it by yourselves. You understood it had to be more than the educators. It had to be those other people in the community, the partners and our parents, other organizations who came together to support you. That's how we get this done. That's powerful.
Yes. The same North Star.
The same North Star.
Yep.
Well, we hear the term unprecedented times, you know, like 12 times a day because we're in unprecedented times. But why do you think that membership is, why now? Why is it important now with so much going on, so many demands and pulls on our time as not just educators and support staff, but as parents and as families and community members? Why is it important now to be part of OEA, NEA?
So for the reasons you just said, that the core value of collective action, of partnership, those are NEA core values. And I would say to that solidarity that we have to care about each other. We have to care about each other. And when I think about the goals that I've set just for this year, they are steeped in that mission. So for me, it is about us, the association, the enterprise, all of us, leading this movement to reclaim public education as that common good, as the foundation of democracy, and then to transform it into a racial and socially just and equitable system that's actually designed, because it wasn't designed that way, that's actually designed to prepare every student, everyone, to succeed in this diverse and interdependent world. And so we do have to talk about equity and access and opportunity and excellence for all students. We do have to talk about professional respect and authority and rights and excellence for all educators. We do have to talk about that shared responsibility at every level. And so everything that we're focused on is steeped in that. And then of course, you know, we're faced with something we've never been faced with before in my lifetime, and for sure with the coronavirus pandemic, which of course spawned all of these other crises, right? The economic crisis, the racial injustice that's being the light is shining on right now, and so we have to support our educators and our students through this as we talk about safely educating our students, taking care of our members. And then not only, we talked earlier about standing in the gaps right now, but we really have to, even in this moment, lift up our heads. And we have to finally come up with that solution to the inequities that have existed in our system forever. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on this year, all of us collectively, to be there for our members right now and our students right now and into the future. And that's what that collective action brings for us as members of the largest labor union in this country.
Well said. I know. Hooray. Well, Becky, we know that you're a very busy woman, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak to us and to our members and educators and support staff here in Oklahoma. We appreciate your time very much.
Very much so. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, ladies. And I need to say this to all of the members and potential members in Oklahoma. You make me so proud every day. You inspire me in ways that you don't even know. This is hard work, isn't it, Alicia? It's hard work.
It is.
But I get to get up every day and see the amazingness. Is that a word? It is a word.
It is now.
The amazingness of our educators all over this country. Who gets to do that? I get to do that. And so I just need to end by saying, thank you, OEA. Thank you, OEA members, for all you do every single day for our students and for each other and for your state and for this country. Thank you.